Comical Market is plus wholesome, Dragon Maid is plus anime titties, Non Non Biori is plus action adventure, but Yuru Camp is plus 1 at the same time. Growing up in Utah, I spent a lot of my youth camping. I've been to the north and south, I've climbed mountains, rappelled down cliffs, but it's been a while since I've actually gone outside by my own volition. And Yuru Camp reminded me of just how good it felt to be outside in nature, so I figured I'll try it again. I mean, why not? I've racked my memory for places close by, and one special trip came to mind. This hike consists of about a 7-mile hike up to a small alpine lake, and there you can either camp or continue up to the summit of the mountain, which is another 2 or 3 miles or something. I did this hike at 14, and when we did it, we backpacked up to the lake, camped a night, climbed up to the summit, descended, camped another night, then the next morning descended and went on home. I can remember most of my camping trips reasonably well, but this one sticks out from the pack. It was really special. When we did it, the hike was really quiet. During our whole time there, we only saw one other person. It was so quiet, in fact, that we had the idea to bless and partake of the sacrament. We had some bread, we had some water, and our church allows all men to hold the priesthood, so we had everything we needed. We sat down, 2 leaders knelt down, we kind of circled around them, and they blessed a slice of bread. We each tore off a little corner and passed it on down. They then did the same thing with water. We had a little small plastic water bottle, and we just passed around in a circle. This was a very special spiritual experience for me. I could look inwards and feel the spiritual evidence of what Christ had done for me, but then I could look outwards and see the physical, the real life evidence of that same thing. This is exactly what I wanted to feel again, so I got my gear together, made some sandwiches, threw my scriptures in a bag, and set out. I drove up the mountain, but as I pulled into the parking area, it turns out the whole thing was full. So I turn around, park around on the side of the street, no big deal. There are 2 trails here. There's a campsite that is right there at the trailhead, and then there's the hike that I'm doing, right? So I figure hopefully most of these guys are headed to the campsite. I should be able to get to the top of this thing. Last time I came here, there was only one other dude. Middle of summer, on a Tuesday morning. I'm here, middle of July, Tuesday morning. There shouldn't be anybody here. This should be totally empty. It'll be great. As I set out, though, I soon pass somebody walking up the trail. After them, I pass a family, and then a young couple, and then an old couple. I get to the lake, but the whole time I was climbing, I could have been making eye contact with somebody. There at the lake, I can see people fishing, people eating, people walking, people talking, people everywhere. I pull out my sandwich and try to read like I had planned, try to feel the spirit like I had planned, but I can't. With so many people, there are just words floating around in the air, and I can't focus on what I want to. Don't get me wrong, I'm glad so many people are outside. It's a good thing people are out there engaging with nature, but with so many words floating in the air, I just can't focus on what I wanted to do. Had the trail been this busy the first time I came up here, I never would have been able to have that sacrament. I never would have been able to have such a special experience. I'm not the only one who wanted a Yuru Camp experience. Back in Japan, every location featured a Yuru Camp. Every campsite, shrine, shop has been saturated with Yuru Camp pilgrims. Some campsites have apparently tripled their attendance entirely due to the show. People plan their trips around these sites. Again, I'm glad people are going outside, but here's the thing. People aren't going to these places to engage with the divine, to engage with their souls. They're going out as an act of fandom. That may seem like a distinction without a difference, but let me say it another way. We've heard about the problems with Mount Everest. Camps are overcrowded, people arrive without proper gear or experience, deaths occur because of overcrowding. And if the people intending to summit really cared about climbing this mountain, these issues would be far less common. Instead, our Earth is being treated as something to conquer, which should be an opportunity to engage with nature. Instead, becomes a ticket to be bought, and that is the problem. Everest isn't a testament to your climbing prowess anymore, it's a testament to the size of your wallet. The Earth ceases to be a living, spiritual body to engage with reverence and instead becomes a dead ball of rock floating in space. That is the worldview that allows us to extract from Earth, clear forests, lay highways with reckless abandon. The Earth is gorgeous everywhere. Every nook and cranny is full of life. Next time you take a walk, stop and smell the roses, but actually do it, Sit down, smell those roses, look at the petals, see all the beauty that's contained within them. Did you know roses are older than humans? That makes sense. We're pretty recent. Most people know that, but Roses are 35 million years older. I could maybe get a little more precise with that number, but human existence only dates back about 300,000 years. Not much better than a rounding error at this scale. History like this is everywhere. You can find this peeking out from the cracks in the sidewalk, but you can only buy clout in a few select places, and so those trails get beaten down by hiking boots. Maybe the outside I found is a little too crowded for my taste, but there's gotta be something more relaxed, something more empty. So in the meantime, let's just stay close to home. As it turns out, the streets tend to be pretty vacant at 2 in the morning, just when the stars are getting really pretty. Abraham was promised his children would number like the stars, and I'm one of those children, so it's hard not to feel anything while looking at them. The stars are visible from every corner of the world, and so many of our oldest stories come from stars. I know some of the stories about the Greek stars, like Orion or Perseus or Sagittarius, but there are plenty of other stories. Babylon had her stories about Taurus. Japanese Tanabata is a star holiday. The Southern Cross is important to almost everybody under the equator. We have all looked up at the night sky, and so when I look up at that very same sky now, I'm connected to the literally billions of people that have come before me. I am just one small part of this story. So I try it. There's a park near my apartment that has some trees surrounding a clearing. Those trees are pretty dense. I hope they'll block out most of the light pollution. So I should have a good view of the stars, right? Pop in my AirPods, pull up some Jacob Geller, and head on out, ready to have my mind filled with the spirit. Only to find that I can't see anything. Turns out when the entire West Coast is on fire, even including some local Utah fires, the sky gets really dark. Sometimes it doesn't matter how long I wait for the stars to brighten up, there's just too much junk in the way. Even at the very early hours of the morning, the city is still bright enough that I can see a ring of light around the trees surrounding this little clearing. Street lights, porch lights, headlights, tail lights, plane lights, store lights, they never go out. These small lights will never be brighter than the stars I'm trying to look at, and in fact, will probably never make anything capable of being that bright, but at the very least, we will obstruct it by sheer proximity. I often find myself looking at where the constellation ought to be, looking at my app, checking Google, looking at the sky, eyes flitting back and forth from each one, but the stars never pop out from the haze. There's supposed to be a star for each of Abraham's children, but I can only make out a small handful. There were days this summer where I couldn't even see the mountains that I live at the base of. I am literally walking distance away from these giant mountains, and I couldn't see them some days. I've been at the base of a mountain my entire life. I can't feel at home without them. I lived in the Dominican Republic for a year and a half, and there are no mountains there. It never occurred to me I wouldn't be able to see any mountains. There was only one spot where I could get a reliable view of the mountains. When you're leaving on the Nueve, you gotta cross this bridge to get over to Los Angeles. And on that bridge, I crane my neck, and I'm kind of tall, so I get an extra view. And you can see some mountains way over there on the horizon. I'd sit there and just look at them, just mentally pulling them closer. Now I'm here where I belong, in the midst of my beloved mountains again. But some days I don't even have the option of seeing them. It's mostly better now. I've been working on this for a while. Okay, so maybe I can't stargaze, maybe I can't see my mountains, but maybe I can hold on to that feeling in my day-to-day life. Maybe I can carry the divine with me. Let's brainstorm. I drive a lot for work. Utah's got a lot of natural beauty everywhere. I really like driving from Park City to Heber, or from Brigham City to Logan, or anywhere. It's gorgeous wherever you look. So when I'm doing that, maybe I can just play the U2 Camp soundtrack when I see something cool. Hopefully that will help me carry this feeling with me. It'll help me remember what I want to in my day-to-day life. Except of course that won't work. The whole reason I'm doing this, my whole objective is to get out of my head and into nature, and my best solution is to sit in my car, not change anything about myself, and use technology and media to inspire a feeling that should be between me and my God. How could I possibly expect that to work? When I tried stargazing, at least part of the reason I couldn't see anything is because I was looking at my phone the whole time. Even then, the only way I could feel not bored was to pipe Jacob Geller through my AirPods and just force all that hard spiritual existential work onto him. What do you expect me to do? Be alone in my thoughts for 20 minutes? I want to feel connected to the divine, and yet I insist on putting as many barriers between me and him as possible because I can't think Like, nothing else crosses my mind. I can't honestly expect anything special from that, and I need to calm down.
Remember that 4chan guy who started a fire because Yudu Camp inspired him to go camping? Obviously, he's an idiot, but he's just trying to do the same thing that I'm trying to do right now. He just is inexperienced and got unlucky. Somebody taught me how to start a fire, somebody taught him, and somebody taught him, presumably all the way back to Prometheus. That's something I carry with me. I have that lineage of human invention and all that human history. I carry that with me every day. But nobody taught Anon how to do that. So the only reason he wanted to go outside is because of some waifus, and then the only people who could teach him how to start a fire was his online community, was 4chan. He was trying to get that lineage. He wanted to connect with that lineage that I have. But he couldn't, and his efforts only discouraged him further. Bummer, really.
Nature is important to me, so I try to take care of her. I don't litter, I try to mitigate my plastic usage, I don't eat a lot of meat, my car is decently fuel efficient. I like to think I'm part of the solution and not the problem, but of course that isn't really true. Just look at these stats. Obviously these are an estimate and probably inaccurate to some degree, but still. I love nature. I think I'm doing good, but I continue doing this to her. Anon started the fire, but would it have been so easy for that fire to catch if we weren't pumping carbon into the air, making each year hotter and drier than the last? Would it have been so easy for Oregon and California to go up in flames if our infrastructure wasn't designed with a blatant disregard for the climate? Here in Utah, fire safety has been taught to me since near infancy because it's always a hazard. One summer, my family spent the 4th of July eating on our front lawns, watching a fire rage on the slopes. Planes dumping retardant, helicopters dumping bucket after bucket of water, just eating our hamburgers. The firefighters' temporary HQ was a soccer field just behind my best friend's house. My family lived literally on the border of the evacuation zone. If we lived 100 feet east, we would have had to leave. You can look at these mountains now. You can still see the naked tree chunks still standing only because the fire moved so quickly it only had time to eat the branches. For maybe about 5-ish years after that fire, despite incredibly low rainfall, flooding was also a constant risk. There weren't any plants to absorb and slow down the water anymore, and so any rainfall came straight down into our neighborhoods. Most of the churches there still have a stockpile of sandbags ready to deploy. I haven't even seen the worst climate change has to offer. I got to stay in my home, my friends got to come back, the fire got put out before it reached any homes. I was too young to help with the flooding and sandbagging, so I've never seen it firsthand, only the muddy streets afterwards. I have seen part of my home on fire and flooded, and somehow that's pretty cushy.
No man is an island entire of itself. Each is a piece of the continent, a part of the main. If a clod be washed away by the sea, Europe is the less, as well as if a promontory were, as well as if a manor of thine own or of thine friends were. Each man's death diminishes me, for I am involved in mankind. Therefore send not to know for whom the bell tolls. It tolls for thee.
When we abuse nature's beauty, darken our skies, allow our forests to burn, the bell tolls for earth, but it tolls for us as well. The Lord has made every man accountable as a steward over earthly blessing, which the Lord has made and prepared for his creatures. He stretched out the heavens and built the earth. They are his very handiwork, and all things therein are his. God made this world for us, and he left us in charge. Earth isn't ours by any metric. We had literally nothing to do with its creation, but we pretend like we're the only important thing here. We won't even be here that long. We're all gonna die someday, but we create problems that outlive us. God made this earth, but he didn't stop there. He made us as well. He made the mountains and rivers and sky and stars and galaxies and universe, and we are all literally made out of the same stuff. Without those heavier elements we got from stars, complex life simply could not exist. We are all made out of space dust, but we pretend that we aren't, that we're separate from nature, that we're disconnected, human, unnatural. That distinction will kill us and is already starting to. Each man's death diminishes us, for we are involved in mankind. Each death, be it a star or a planet or a species or a human idea or emotion, has a direct impact on you because they are you. Yudu Camp drew me in because it reminded me of that, but it also reminded me of everything else that comes along with it. We are killing ourselves by exploiting our planet, using those resources to create objects that split us apart from nature, from the divine, and that exploitation tarnishes what's left of the earth we still have left. If you loved Yudu Camp, if you want to live, at least in part, like they do, it's not too late. Use less plastic, eat less meat, step up in your community climate group, go outside, look at the stars. I complained about not being able to see the stars earlier, but it's gotten a lot better recently, and those walks have really helped me. I'm sort of spoiled for choice as far as pretty nature sites go, living here in Utah and all, but there are some nice nature spots near you, wherever it is that you live. So go outside, experience them, engage with the planet, feel what it's trying to let you feel. Your soul will thank you for it. All right, cool.